Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host Gershwan and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we talk about the Imperium of Man in the form of Titan lore. Now this isn't the official 40 Facts video on Titans, but I want to cover this before we cover the Titans. This is the Collegia Titanica. So this is the origins of the Titan legions. So I want to get this done first before we get into the Titans, which is a very highly requested video. Now, if you guys have any requests, please comment down below. Put suggestion followed by whatever topic you guys want us to create a video for. With that said, let's get into 40 facts about the Collegia Titanica. The Collegia Titanica is the division of the Adeptus Mechanicus that operates and oversees the Titans, the colossal imperial war machines that are the most powerful engines of war in the Imperium of Man. The Collegia may also be referred to as the Adeptus Titanicus or the Legio Titanicus in ancient records, dating back to the Horus Heresy and the Great Crusade. One of the most ancient pillars of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Collegia Titanica operates the mighty Titans, each a bipedal metal giant armed with weapons able to level entire districts, and protected by armor and void shields capable of shrugging off attacks from all but the heaviest of foes. The so-called God engines of the Titan legions have served mankind since long before the Age of Strife, their origins lost in the Dark Age of technology. During the Age of Terra, the human race advanced beyond its ancient pre-industrial past to obtain spacefaring capabilities. In this time, mankind slowly and painstakingly began to settle the habitable worlds in its own solar system, and in the stars beyond, near its home world, using massive starships capable of only sublight speeds. Mars was one of the first colony worlds to be settled by humanity, if not the first. But during the Age of Strife, interstellar travel and communication became erratic, as warp storms became more frequent and more intense as the birth pangs of the chaos god Slanesh rattled the immaterium. The use of warp drives and astropaths to tie together human-settled space became increasingly useless during this time. Billions eventually died as a result of the war, renegade psychers, demonic possession, and starvation that ran rampant during this period. Mars eventually found itself cut off from Terra and all other human-settled worlds during this period, and its leaders could no longer acquire sufficient food or resources to accommodate its large populations. Mars was soon consumed by strife as its society drifted into anarchy, and a new faith began to spread amongst its people, a religion focused on the technology needed to ensure their continual survival on a world whose carefully constructed biosphere was unraveling before its very eyes. This was the cult Mechanicus, dedicated to the worship of the machine god. Under direction of the Mechanicus' rigid hierarchy of tech priests, the cultists set about restoring order to their world. The Legos themselves came into being on Mars during the anarchy of the Old Night, when the fabled triad Ferrum Margulis was established. The trio of this new order consisted of the Legio Tempestus, Legio Mortis, Legio Ignatum, and while all three stood against the horrors of the Age of Strife, from ravaging Xenos to thinking machines, they were just as equally likely to fight one another. Each served the interests of its own forge, so that throughout the long age of anarchy, rivalries were established that much later would bear bitter fruit indeed. The tech priests of Mars built their first temples to the machine god and eventually restored order to the Red Planet after the Age of Strife had passed. When the Emperor of Mankind came to the Red Planet, having brought unity to the war-shattered ancient Terra, the first human colony he encountered was Mars. Heralded by those who met him as the Amnesia, the machine god incarnate, some within the cult Mechanicus were not entirely pleased with this turn of events. A few of these malcontent individuals incited a short and bloody insurrection against those within the cult who called for an alliance with the Emperor. But eventually the opposition was crushed, and Mars and Terra were finally reunited after a millennia by the Treaty of Mars. This agreement formally founded the Imperium of Man as an allegiance between Terra and the cult Mechanicus, and granted the admechs the autonomy required to maintain their faith, even as the Emperor intended to spread his secular and atheistic imperial truth across the galaxy. In recognition of the fact that the unification of humanity could not be achieved without the technological and scientific aid of the Mechanicum, Mars became an ally to Terra rather than its subject. With the massive human resources of Terra and the colossal technical and industrial powers of Mars, the Emperor could begin his mighty enterprise of reconquering the galaxy on a firm foundation. As the Emperor's host pushed ever outward into the galaxy, casting back the horrors that had gripped the scattered human worlds for so many long centuries, the Titan legions marched with them. Fighting alongside the Space Marines of the Legionis Astartes, the elite Void Soldiers of the Solar Auxilia, and the numerous other forces in a rapidly expanding Exercitus Imperialis, the Titan orders came upon other planets dominated by their long-lost kin, Forge worlds not unlike Mars and ruled by similar techno-theocracies. A few refused to acknowledge the primacy of the Red Planet and had to be forced to submit, or in some cases, even destroyed. The majority, however, knew of the Red Planet through the few fragments of archived data and echoes of legend which had managed to survive the Age of Strife, and willingly took their place in the New Order. The greatest of the newly discovered Forge worlds were found to host their own Titan orders, and while many had developed their own unique and sometimes idiocentric cultures, others were found to have organized themselves along a similar line to the original Martian Triad Ferrum Morgulus, suggesting some underlying machine principle or pattern at work, which the Lords of Mars looked upon and found pleasing. Within a few decades of the outset of the Great Crusade, the Mechanicum had discovered or founded a score of Titan orders, and by the turn of the 1st century of the Great Crusade, the order of battle by which the Legos arranged themselves had become somewhat codified, and while individual bodies exercised considerable variations in strategy, a degree of standardization was inevitable. The Fabricator General proclaimed that the many Titan orders should be recognized as a distinct class within the greater corpus of the Mechanicum, that its doctrines, traditions, and battle honors might be propagated and preserved for the good of mankind. This body was to be known as the Collegia Titanica, while the Legos themselves would remain subservient to the will of the individual Forge Lords. It would become a politically influential entity within the emerging structure of the new Imperium of Man. The Collegia Titanica is organized into separate divisions, which each consist of a number of Titan legions, sometimes called orders. A Titan legion is a group of Titans of different classes under a command of a Grand Master, originating from a common Forge world or worlds. Each is bound by a common heritage, tradition, and school of thought, and each possesses a distinctive code of conduct and their own predilections in regards to practical battlefield operations and employed tactics. Each Titan Legion has a preference for the use of certain weapons, different uniform designs, Titan decorations, rank names, colors, heraldry, and other such things. All of this variety is within certain limits, as the Titan legions may not, for example, change the existing system of ranks and the Collegia Titanica standard chain of command, though they still possess much liberty in their own mode of operation. Some Titan legions were created to fulfill specific battlefield roles, such as a siege work or combat in specific environment conditions, and thus are geared appropriately, but in terms of equipment and mindset. The Collegia Titanica is the chief military arm of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and under an obligation to the Adepts ruling tech priests. By virtue of the autonomy of the Mechanicus within the broader structure of the Imperium, the Titan legions answer only to the tech priest hierarchy. Their deployment and assignments are exclusively decided by the Mechanicus Magi, and each has to be authorized by a ruling lord of a Titan legion's home Forge world. This right provides the Magi with a great influence over when and where Imperial armies making use of Titan supports will fight. On the battlefield, Titans may not be issued order by other commanders, be they Imperial Guard or Space Marine officers. A Titan's battle group's actions will only be decided by the commanding princeps, or ranking magos of the Mechanicus accompanying them. or in some situations by the Lord of the Forge World the Titan legions hail from. Although a high-ranking tech priest technically holds authority over a Titan princeps, as he respects the princeps' tactical knowledge and experience, the latter will be given much freedom in his actions on the field. The magos, however, will interfere when he or she deems it necessary, for example ordering the battle group to withdraw from a world in order to avoid unnecessary Titan losses. There is one exception. A member of the Inquisition has the power to commandeer Titans already on the field, and directly issue them orders, as well as to requisition the deployment of a Titan battle group from a Forge world. However, a wise and politically astute Inquisitor will be careful when interfering in the Mechanicus' business, and even more so because the priesthood of Mars is understandably fiercely protective of their Titans. The number of Titan legions and individual Titans within the Collegia Titanica is unknown, yet their ranks are presumed to be large. The Collegia Titanica has many deployments on its hands, protecting the Imperium not only from traitors, but from Xenos forces and other threats as well. The Divisio Militaris deploys over 100 Titan legions to watch over the Eye of Terror alone, and the galaxy harbors many more threats to humanity that require the attention of the Titan legions. In addition to these duties, the Titan legions also take on expeditions which lead them away from the boundaries of the Imperium, bringing new worlds into the Imperial fold, aiding rogue traders and Adeptus Mechanicus exploratory fleets. The number of Titans in a single legion varies greatly, as some possess as few as a dozen, and others maintain over 100. Battle losses take decades, even centuries to replace, as the construction of a new Titan is a long and extremely laborious process for the Adeptus Mechanicus. Over the long millennia of constant warfare, the legions of the Collegia Titanica have developed their own tried and tested tactics and battle formations, many of which are based around the units known as Maniple. This is a configuration that makes use of Reaver and Warhound class Titans, consisting of at least 3 machines. In a Maniple formation, the Warhound strides ahead of the Reavers, finding and marking targets to be destroyed by the advancing Titans. Some Titan battle groups are in fact only Maniples, and if such a force faces the need to divide its strength, it will create smaller units of nearly identical configurations called demi-Maniples. The tech priests accompanying a Titan battle group carry with them the equipment necessary to accommodate Titans engaged in heavy combat, and in addition to the performance of mundane battlefield maintenance, have the means to conduct minor field repairs. The tech priests can facilitate the rearming of Titans in the event of the destruction of their original weapon loadout, or refit them with the ordnance better suited for the tasks they face on the battlefield. Damaged Titans are taken after battle to the tech priest facilities for repair, but if during the course of fighting one of them sustains grave damage, it will be withdrawn as soon as possible as to avoid its ultimate destruction, and given into the care of the tech adepts. If they prove unable to fix the battered machine's pain, they will secure the ravaged Titan and return it to the home Forge world, where it may be given the appropriate care. Despite such precautions, the god machines occasionally do fall in combat, much to the grief of the cult Mechanicus, and in particular the crews and staff that accompany them. When a campaign is running its course, the Forge world will send new Titans to replace the battlefield losses and to continue the fight. And those were 40 facts about the Collegia Titanica. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's going to be a part 2 and a part 3 where we talk about the different legion types, and then of course the Titans and what they do and what the different classes of Titans are. So please subscribe to the channel for that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. By you guys liking, commenting, and sharing this video, it really helps out the channel. It allows it to grow, and we can put out more Warhammer 40K content. If you really love what we do and you want to keep seeing us do this, please help us out on Patreon. Jump on over there. It's a simple $1 a month, and with that $1 we create more videos for you guys. We put them exclusively on Patreon, and of course you see experimental projects here on YouTube. So please help out, and if you can't, like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below for any more additional topics that you guys want us to talk about, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.